You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com/Braves Country.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune in to The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99, WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge, so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on YouTube.com/@Braves Country.
At Shell, we know from the time you get up to the time you wrap up,
good night,
there's a lot of meetups, eat-ups, and hurry-ups. So come to Shell and get 3 things done at once. Fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus to help keep your engine running like new. Save up with the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. And snack up with in-store rewards to save even more at the pump. Make the most of the stop you need to make with Shell and engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline. See full terms and conditions at fuelrewards.com.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, Braves fans. Thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves and bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines two of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infidium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hey, sports fans, the Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League. And the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM. And simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and youtube.com/Braves Country. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and youtube.com/Braves Country.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
This is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. College football rankings come out tomorrow night, but the AP Top 25 is in, and the Georgia Bulldogs are still #1 in the land. They're followed by Michigan, TCU, and USC in the top 4. Ohio State with the #5 slot. Alabama and Tennessee follow them up with Penn State, Washington, and Clemson in the top 10. LSU falls to #11 after getting handled by the Texas A&M Aggies. Florida State jumps up to #14 after their thrilling win against arch rival, the Florida Gators. The South Carolina Gamecocks, they jump into the top 25 at #20 after shocking Clemson on the road. The National Football League tonight, Monday Night Football. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 3-7, they travel to the Indianapolis Colts, 4-6-1. The line is Indianapolis favored by 2, over under 39.5. 7 o'clock Eastern on NBA TV. The Atlanta Hawks are at the Philadelphia 76ers. Philly favored by a point. Hornets are at the Celtics at 7:30. And other games of interest, you've got the Cavs at the Raptors, Bulls at the Jazz, the Phoenix Suns are at the Sacramento Kings. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Jake, what do you want to do tonight?
Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it. Armchair. YouTube Live.
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country, your first choice for Southern sports. Good afternoon and happy Cyber Monday to you. Buyer beware if you're shopping for OBJ. Might want to get some smelling salts along with it.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Welcome to the Armchair Quarterbacks Braves Country on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia. And we're also simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country. I'm Mac McGee. Tones Ariola will be joining us here in a bit. And we're going to be talking some NFL when he gets here with us. Of course, the OBJ thing, if you haven't seen this, a really strange story. And he was on an airplane down in Miami, I believe it was, Miami International Airport. And OBJ has been going around visiting different teams. And so he was leaving out. And long story short, they had to kick him off the plane. They said he was incoherent. He says he wasn't. So there's a lot of he said, she said. So who knows how much this is going to affect whether or not someone is going to want to dive in and sign him. I would be a little leery of it, considering the fact he's been out of football for almost a year. And you wonder, is there a problem? Now, maybe it's much to do about nothing. Maybe the flight attendant or the crew themselves, maybe they overreacted. But the way that they sold it was that there is a situation where he had a blanket over his head and he wasn't really responding, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see how that unfolds. I'm Mac McGee, and we are here with Braves Country every 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern every weekday, and we'll be going into the world of sports. It is called Braves Country. It's because we're in Braves Country, but that does not mean that we are only going to talk baseball. But we do have some baseball news that we'll get to in a second. But before we do all that, how about that football weekend? My word. And college football is barreling towards the SEC championship, the ACC championship, the Pac-12 championship. If you missed it over the weekend, your SEC winners and losers, Florida State and Florida, they played a thriller in Tallahassee. The Seminoles beating the Gators, ending a 3-game streak, but it was 4 years because they did not play the pandemic year. And it was kind of funny after the game, people were mocking Florida State fans for rushing the field, storming the field, as they call it. That one to me was not really a storming of the field. That one had more of a feel of a celebration and basically Florida State's back on the map kind of thing, because a true storming of the field, you just see them rush it and they tear down the goalposts, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, there were kids coming over and they were just kind of hugging. And there are also a lot of ex-players on the field, and they were coming over there for the meet and greet. So there was a little bit of that, like a true storming of the field. You're ripping down the goalposts and you're costing the university a lot of money. So that did not happen, but people like to give everyone a hard time. I saw it a few times this week, and I saw A&M do it with LSU. That was a little more of a storming on the field, but then again, A&M's had a horrible season, and they knock off number 5 LSU. If you missed that game, it was 38-23, but it wasn't even that close. LSU scored a late touchdown. They did get the ball back with about 5 minutes left and had a chance to maybe cut into it, and an onside kick or a very quick stop could have gotten them back in the game. But you never had the sense that A&M was going to lose that game once they got that 3-touchdown lead. They just ran down the throat of LSU. And nothing against LSU, nothing against LSU fans, but I think a lot of us are glad that they did lose, because there was talks about putting them in the college football playoffs, which just would have been absurd. If you look at LSU's season, they've really bounced back, but they lost to Florida State at the beginning of the season. And then the big one to me is that the fact that they got boat raced and ran out of the building by Tennessee. And then, of course, you add into what happened on Saturday, where they got handled once again. Now, they had the big upset win against Alabama, so that's the one that everyone keeps pointing to. They beat Ole Miss when Ole Miss was ranked top 10 in the country, and they do have some good wins, and I'm not saying that they don't belong in a New Year's Six, but to have the conversation that they were going to be somehow worthy of a playoff spot when there's only 4. Now, in a few years, when you got 12 teams, absolutely, LSU would probably still have a puncher's chance of getting in there. The Egg Bowl, of course, took place on Thanksgiving. I think most people caught that, Mississippi State beating Ole Miss, and it looks like Lane Kiffin is staying. Georgia, the Bulldogs, hunkered down and took care of business against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I thought Georgia Tech played a pretty good game considering where they're at this point, but Georgia just too much, and they are 12-0 now, heading toward the Southeastern Conference Championship and ready to not only win the championship for the SEC, but they're ready to go try to defend that title for the national title. Georgia punched their ticket on Saturday. Win, lose, or draw this coming weekend, Georgia's getting in. Now, the difference would be if you are a Bulldog fan, you want to see the W, first of all, because it's nice to win your conference championship. But then the other thing is a sidebar of that would be the recruiting trail. You don't want LSU to have any kind of a leg up on you on the recruiting trail. But then the other thing would be if they were to lose the SEC championship, they may not be the number 1 seed. In fact, they probably wouldn't be, assuming Michigan wins their Big Ten championship. I believe Michigan punched their ticket. I believe you're going to get Michigan, you're going to get Georgia. And then the other side of it, that's where it really gets interesting. Now they'll come up with the playoff committee rankings tomorrow night, and be interesting to see who they have at 5. But as of right now, what you're looking at, Georgia I'm going off the AP poll right now. Georgia is number 1, 58 first place votes, and Michigan with just 5. TCU is number 3 after Michigan being number 2. TCU is number 3. And then Southern Cal, who is 11-1, is number 4. Southern Cal, I just know how the committee does this. It would not shock me at all if the committee decides to put Ohio State above either TCU or USC going into the weekend. But if the two of them win their conference championships, they're getting in, and Ohio State would be the oddball out. So if you're an Ohio State fan, after getting blown out at home, you got to have help. You do not have an argument of an undefeated TCU or a 1-loss Southern Cal team who lost to Utah early in the season. And that, by the way, is who they are going to play in the Pac-12 championship. So at that point, we're talking about being able to kind of right the ship, so to speak. So we look forward to that. And that game is on Friday night. So if you're an Ohio State fan, you're obviously rooting for Utah. You need either Utah to lose or you need TCU to lose, because TCU, they are heading to their conference championship, and it's a good one. It's going to be noon on ABC on Saturday, and it's going to be Kansas State, who is number 12 in the country. If you haven't watched them play, they've got an explosive offense. It should be a really good game. They will play TCU at noon Eastern, and that kind of kicks off your college football championship day, if you're not counting the Pac-12 championship the night before. Now, Kansas State and TCU, they played way back in the 7th week of the season, and they were at TCU, and TCU won by 10. It was 38-28. It's going to be really difficult to beat a good team twice, but that's what TCU is tasked with. And unfortunately, the way the Big 12 is set up right now, that's the way it's always going to be. There's nothing but rematches in the conference championship games because they don't have enough teams, so everybody plays everybody. And that, if you're looking for an upset, and you are an Ohio State fan, I think that's your best bet, because I do believe that USC is ready to roll with Utah. That game, by the way, is going to be in Las Vegas. It's going to be in the Raiders Stadium at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Pac-12 championship, and the Kansas State TCU game, that's going to be in Jerry's World in Arlington, Texas. Also on Saturday, by the way, we will have a special show on Saturday for you here on WQEE. We will be the pregame show leading into the Southeastern Conference Championship, starting at 2:00 Eastern. We'll roll on till about 3:30, where we'll pick up the coverage from the Southeastern Conference Championship. So Southeastern Conference Championship right here on WQEE 99.1 FM. That game is set for a 4:00 kickoff. Like I said, our pregame show will start at 2:00 that day. We'll get you rolling there. LSU, Georgia, right now the line has already jumped up. This morning it was 16.5. It's already 17.5. So people are laying heavy money on the Georgia Bulldogs. If you wonder what that line would have been had LSU won the game on Saturday, would they be a little bit of a paper tiger and maybe be under a 2-touchdown favorite? But because of the way they were handled against Texas A&M, they are now a 17.5 point favorite. It would not shock me. If you like Georgia and the 17.5, you probably want to jump on it, because it really would not shock me if LSU Georgia ends up around 20. That's a little rich for my blood when it comes to a SEC championship game. I know Georgia is very capable of doing it, and I kind of expect them to blow LSU out. Game is in Atlanta, so they definitely have the home field, so to speak. And Georgia's playing really good football as they have for the last 2 years. But when you talk a 17.5 point spread, a lot of things have to go right and very little things have to go wrong. Georgia can't come off slow or sluggish, which I don't expect them to do. If you take LSU, you're kind of holding on for dear life. I'm steering clear of that matchup myself. There's another game on at 4:00 on Saturday, UCF and Tulane. That is the American Athletic Championship. That's going to just be a fun one. It should be a shootout. The over-under is 56.5. By the way, the Georgia line is 50.5. But that should be a flat-out shootout. They're going to be playing it in New Orleans. So Tulane can put up points. Central Florida can put up points. I really wish this game wasn't going on at the same time as the SEC championship game because I'd like to lock into it. But after we finish our kickoff show on Saturday, I've got an obligation that I have to go to, and I know for a fact there's only going to be one television. There's no way you can go, hey, in the middle of Braves country, go, hey, can you put the AA championship game on for a second? I want to check the score. That's not happening. Saturday night, you've got two games kicking off at the same time. You got the ACC championship game, which is realistically the better game. It's Clemson. They got shocked by South Carolina. South Carolina's on a roll, aren't they? But they got shocked by South Carolina after South Carolina blew out Tennessee 2 weekends ago. They take care of their arch nemesis, the Clemson Tigers. Clemson is going to try to right their ship, make sure they get to a New Year's Six bowl game. They really have no shot of getting to the playoffs. I mean, so many things would have to happen. About 6 teams would have to hit an iceberg. Clemson is a 7.5-point favorite. It is in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're playing the Tar Heels. That should be a fun shootout. The Big Ten championship game means more because Michigan's in it. But once again, I think Michigan's in no matter what. If they were to lose, who are you going to put in over them? You can't put Southern Cal in over them. If Southern Cal were to lose, Southern Cal has to win and they're in. You can't put Ohio State in over Michigan. They just blew them out in their own building. You can't put Alabama there. They've got 2 losses. Michigan would only have 1. Same thing with Tennessee. Same thing with the rest of the group. So Michigan's in, but they don't want to go in limping. Plus, I think they want to avoid Georgia as long as they can. So if they win, they would definitely be the 1 or 2 seed, and they wouldn't have to worry about playing Georgia till the championship game. And there's obviously some revenge factor there as they eye a possible rematch with Georgia. But I really hope that they have figured things out, because last year that was an absolute tub thumping. I do think the Michigan offense looks a lot better this year. I was very impressed with the quarterback play, and they just wore Ohio State down and eventually pounded the rock and ran through them in case you missed that game on Saturday. But that's the more intriguing game for a number of reasons. See how Michigan's faring. Of course, with both Georgia and Michigan, another reason why I'd be really hesitant to take the minus points, Michigan's a 16-point favorite, is the fact that you get in late in the fourth quarter and you've got a comfortable lead, we'll say 3 touchdowns. I think your starters start coming out of the game. You're trying to avoid any kind of injury. And yes, you've got about a month before you're going to play your first playoff game, but you're still not wanting some season-ending injury to an important, impactful player. So you got to keep an eye on that as well. So those are the games. That's what lines up on Saturday. And I think it should be a lot of fun for everybody involved in college football. I've got a couple of gripes about the current poll, but they're really not that big a deal. When you look at the AP poll, it really makes you wonder, do the voters vote, or are they giving it all to their assistants? And I'll give you one example that jumps out. Florida State is 9-3. LSU is 9-3. LSU is 3 spots higher at number 11. Florida State is 14. Florida State beat LSU. And you can't say, well, LSU's playing much better football. No, they're not. They just got blown out by A&M. And Florida State is on an absolute roll. They can kind of name their score. It'll be interesting come bowl game. In fact, I'm looking at a screen right now coming out of Vegas, the power rankings. This is kind of crazy. They've got Florida State in the top 10, which I can't necessarily argue with. And I think it's off of the momentum of some of these wins. Now they've got them. The only thing I'll say about putting Florida State in the top 10 at this point is every other team in front of them has less than 3 losses. But who would win on the field right now? that's really just up to your individual. Sometimes it comes down to bias or it's just the way that you consume the game. But I have to keep them on the outside of the top 10 at this point, because everyone that I named in the top 10, Clemson, Washington, Penn State, Tennessee, Alabama, and the list goes on and up, they all have 2 losses or less. Kansas State, if they were to beat TCU, I would put them above Florida State. But outside of that, I think Florida State's at least the top 12 team in the country. I think if you put them on the same field against Utah, I think they get the W. Against LSU, obviously they got the W. Kansas State, I think they would beat Kansas State, but if Kansas State wins the Big 12 championship, you got to give them the nod. Oregon, I think Florida State would beat them. What about Oregon blowing that lead? If you missed that, they were absolutely pounding Oregon State, and they ended up losing in the Civil War, as they call it. In the fourth quarter, Oregon State outscores Oregon 21-3, but it was 3 consecutive. So it was 21-0 to win 38-34. Okay, we are going to take a really quick break, but when we come back, there's a new hire in college football. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country on WQEE. Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is handpicked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. Little Bites? That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute? I love Little Bites. I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay? Got it. As I was saying, whenever I bring home you know what, you know who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious. I love Little Bites. There you go. Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. The perfect portion of happiness.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
You're listening to Braves Country, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
Something of the 5th of September, something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember, something of the 5th. Then there was something last fall, and I think I saw something last fall, but I didn't.
Welcome back here to Braves Country, WQEE 99.1 FM. And we are also simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country. Tones is on the way, and we'll get some of his opinions. Look, there's been some big time news that has hit very, very recently in Major League Baseball. And we'll go ahead and hit that news for you, and then we'll react to the college football. This coming across the board in, I guess it's been an hour ago, maybe. Looks like Abreu is signing with the Houston Astros. And the first numbers that I saw, it looked like it was 3 years, $20 million a year, which really surprised me. This is Jose Abreu, by the way, the ex-White Sox slugger. And Jose Abreu, if you're wondering, okay, $20 million a year, considering the market, and I know nobody makes the money that these guys make, but I kind of have to compartmentalize that. I don't complain about when Brad Pitt makes millions and millions to say a few lines in a movie. So you're paid for what you're worth, obviously. But Jose Abreu, it's one thing is interesting to me, but it looks like that they're looking for a guy who wants to win and is a proven winner, but also he's 35. He'll be 36 by opening day. 36. You're talking about this 36, 37, 38 years committing what looks like what's being first reported about 60 million. That's an interesting grab. And I'm not saying it's a terrible grab. This is a guy that last year seems like his power is down, power outage, so to speak. So in 2021, Abreu, 30 home runs and a 261 average. Last year, he's doing more like Miggy Cabrera type things late in his career. Only 15 home runs and but a 304 average. So he'll come into play first base. I would assume he's replacing Gurriel. And it'll be interesting to see not just what he does this year, but in age 37 and 38, what he does. I know first base is a position that you could realistically hide some age, but wow, that's a lot of bones. And when you think about the fact that Dansby Swanson's still out there and the Braves would love to bring him back, what is he going to carry on an AAV? Because I've heard David O'Brien, who covers the Braves for The Athletic, I've heard him talk about that. He believes that the number's $22 million a year that the Braves are willing to pay Swanson. So they're only willing to pay him $2 more million a year for a guy who did not have a year for a guy that had a much better year than Abreu and much younger and plays a much more important position. By the way, his OPS last year was just 824. And though that's not terrible, in years past, he's been in the 900 range. I mean, you look at 2020, and I know it was a shortened season, but he had 967 OPS. 2017, 906 OPS. But I guess they're banking that he'll get his power back. He does have 243 career home runs, and he didn't start playing until 2014, so kind of late in life for a Major League Baseball star. But remember, he's originally from Cuba, so that had a lot to do with it. So, interesting move, very interesting move by the Astros, and doesn't really shock me because the Astros, who I think absolutely deserved the championship last year, me being a big Braves guy, as long as it wasn't the Mets and as long as it wasn't the Dodgers, I was going to be pretty happy with whoever won it, right? And then it got to, you can't let the Phillies win it. We were much better than them, but we played a terrible series. I think health had a lot to do with that, but you can't sit there and lean on that kind of stuff. I'm never one that likes to come up with excuses. When a team beats you, they beat you. Wasn't the ref's fault. Sometimes. It wasn't that wild card game against the Cardinals with that fake so-called infield fly rule that was in the middle of deep left field. But typically I don't like pointing at stuff like that. I just say we didn't play well, and we didn't play well. We didn't get good pitching, and the bats absolutely fell asleep on the road. But looking at what Dansby Swanson, what is he likely to get? Because Dansby, he is going to be 29 on opening day, right? And Dansby plays a much more difficult position, and a lot of people would argue that he might be the best defensive shortstop in baseball. If he's not, he's at least top 3. He's at least top 3. And I don't hear any argument about Tatis, because until he comes off his PED suspension, he can't even be in any argument about anything. So Dansby Swanson last year hit more home runs than Abreu by 10. Now, granted, his batting average wasn't as high. Their OPSs were pretty close to each other. But the simple fact of the matter, Abreu is going to be either a DH or a first baseman. And he's 35, or will be 36. So I know a lot of Braves fans are wanting to know what's going on with Dansby and where is he going to sign. And I'll be honest with you, looking at some of these moves over that are leading into the, what is it? I believe it's next week that the owners meeting is going to be taken, or the GMs and owners meetings, the winter meetings, as they call them, they'll be taking place next week. So that's usually when you start seeing some really big wheeling and dealing. Still all quiet on the front right now, but Abreu, a big splash. And when you talk about Dansby Swanson, where he could be landing, I really always thought that the Braves, after what they went through with Freddie, would learn their lesson and sign him. But it's looking more and more like he may be going. And if he leaves, the injury to Bryce Harper, putting him on Tommy John, they're saying he's going to be back around the All-Star break. I don't see it. Maybe to DH, maybe. But by the way, there's breaking news. Tiger Woods has withdrew from the Hero Challenge foot issue. So we start again with that. And also Portugal is leading Uruguay in the World Cup in the 74th minute. They're at 1-0. But back to the free agency. Bryce Harper being injured may sound like a good thing for the Braves, but it could be a bad thing, because that could lead them to go out and sign someone like a Dansby Swanson. Now, I've all along thought that they could be getting Trey Turner, which, if you think that offense is ridiculous now, get Trey Turner on that team, and it's just going to be nothing but fireworks. But Dansby would be a great fit there. And when you look at what's heading towards this coming year and some of the rule changes that are being made, and one of the main one is the fact that they're outlawing the shift. A good defensive shortstop is going to be very, very important this year and going forward. I still think you're going to see some shifting and some bending of the rules. I don't think it's going to be the quick fix that everyone thinks it's going to be, but you're not going to be able to put Austin Riley in shallow right field. He's going to have to go play over at third where he belongs, right? And so that's going to lead to more offense, but that just means that offenses like the Phillies become more potent. I also believe it makes the Braves offense much more potent. It's going to make the Braves, if they can get Dansby back or anybody to play a good shortstop position, they're going to have a heck of an infield. Ozzie should be fine. He should be ready to roll. Of course, you got Riley, you've got Olsen. So, but when you look at landing spots that Dansby could be heading to, the Dodgers seem like a big time option, the Phillies, the Boston Red Sox. Remember, they're losing Xander Bogaerts. So everyone focuses on where Xander Bogaerts is going, but you got to focus on who are the Red Sox going to come bring in. And Dansby could pepper the Green Monster. Are you kidding me? And he would be a fan favorite there. If they wanted to back up the Brinks truck, Dansby Swanson, to me, is a no-brainer fit for the Boston Red Sox. Because the culture there it's a baseball town, and the fact that he is so clutch, and I know metrics can't define that, but I believe it when I see it, and when I see it, I see clutch, and Dansby's got that clutch gene. It's just like, despite the PEDs, David Ortiz had that clutch gene. There are guys that just have that clutch gene, and I've said for a long time, the Dansby Swanson is the Derek Jeter of the Atlanta Braves. He's a guy that's not going to go out and hit 35, 40 home runs for you, but you also don't need that. He's going to have home runs somewhere in the 20-25 range, mid-20s. As he ages, I'm sure it'll go down a little bit, but mid-20s. But he's a guy that when he comes up and there's a runner on second and you're playing a little bit of a shift, he is looking to poke it through the hole. He is not looking to try to slam it over the wall. When you're down by one in the bottom of the ninth, he's just trying to put the pressure on the defense. He's not trying to hit a 7-run home run every time he comes up like Ozuna. Ozuna comes out of his shoes sometimes on a changeup on a 3-0 pitch that he should have spit on and ran down to first. So that clutch gene and the defense and the fact that he can go out there and the fact that he shows up to the post every day. He played 162 games this year, 160 last year. He played every game in the shortened season of 2020. He was a little banged up in 2019, but still played 127 games. Since 2017, when he became an everyday player for the Braves, Dansby Swanson, we are looking at 144, 136, 127 every game in 2020, 160 and every game last year. So if you give him the money, not only is he a guy that leads in the locker room, he can get you base hits, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we'll move on from that. Just want to get a little baseball talk in. Let's go ahead and fly over to college football. And the Nebraska Cornhuskers have brought in Matt Rule as their head coach. They announced it yesterday. It was pretty much known Saturday, but the press conference was yesterday. Matt Rule, of course, got canned by the Carolina Panthers, had a terrible record with the Panthers, but he built a heck of a team, a Big 12 championship team in Baylor. And if he can do that in Baylor, he can do it in Nebraska. He's going to coach a very tough style defense. And that's what Nebraska needs. If Nebraska is ever going to get back to where they were, they need these types of, they needed a hire like this. Look, they tried to bring in Scott Frost and they thought it was going to be a fit. And I'm a little shocked that it didn't fit a little better. But the problem with Scott Frost, number one overall, is he couldn't get the athletes in there that he needs to run the kind of offense that he wanted to run like he had at Central Florida. At Central Florida, he was going up against much lesser defenses. So he didn't have to have the elite offensive line and receivers, quarterback, etc. He just had to have very good. When you get to the Big Ten, you're going to have to win in the trenches, and he just did a horrible job of bringing guys in that could adjust to that. With all that being said, Matt Rule is going to play a more conservative style of football. And if you remember those Baylor teams, they had really good defenses. And he should be able to recruit pretty well. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Tom Osborne. But what I'm saying is he's got a chance to build a competitive team. And I really think Nebraska fans at this point, they're so far removed. They're like Miami Hurricane fans. They're so far removed from irrelevancy that they would take a guy that can go out there and get them around 8-4 every year. And we'll just say every election cycle, have a puncher's chance to get it into a conference championship game. And you never know what you can build over time. But you got to have patience. You got to give them a chance. I'm as shocked as anybody how quickly that Mike Norvell turned around Florida State after they started 0-4 last year. Wasn't ready to call for his head, but I'll tell you what, wasn't going to take much more. And then you started seeing a slow change, and then this year they really took off. Well, Matt Rule, I think he's got to be given that same time frame. Folks are going to say, well, Norvell actually had an extra year, but I can't count 2020. 2020 to me, you throw that one in the dumper because nobody knew what the heck they were doing in 2020. So I did see an interesting statistic on that. He was 3-10 his first 13 games at Florida State, and now has rebounded. I believe he's 20-5. I believe is what the number was. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. But anyways, heck of a turnaround there, and that's what Husker fans are looking for. They're looking for that kind of turnaround at Nebraska, and he can do it. And they're in the easiest division, I'll say, in Power 5 football. The Big Ten West is terrible. Purdue's going to be in the Big Ten championship game. So you've got a chance until they mix that up, which they should have done that a long time ago. But until they mix that up, they've got a decent chance to get into the Big Ten championship game every once in a while. All right, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the Atlanta Falcons and the National Football League. Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is handpicked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to dixiehandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. Little Bites? That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute? I love bites. I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay? Got it. As I was saying, whenever I bring home you know what, you know who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious. I love Little Bites. There you go. Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffin, the perfect portion of happiness.
You're not sick tonight, are you? Good. Your tongue's going to be hanging out. Tell him to throw up on his own time.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, home of Braves Country, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, and youtube.com at Braves Country.
Braves, wait a minute. Do you think you got me a tape of the show?
What on earth for?
How often do you get to hear your son on the radio?
I'm on the radio every day.
Welcome back to Braves Country here on WQEE 99.1 FM. I'm Mac McGee, and Tones is going to be showing up here in a second. Tampa Tones. He's a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. We'll be talking the NFC South. You know, it's funny, after the Falcons loss, which it was such a brutal loss. Such a brutal loss. But even with that being said, the Buccaneers go out and lose. So you're right back where you started from. And when you look at the schedule of the Atlanta Falcons, they still have a puncher's chance to get in. Now, the only way they're getting in, I believe, is going to be to win the division. I just feel like this team's going to absorb too many losses to be able to win the wild card. But crazier things have happened in the NFC, and you do have the extra wild card in there nowadays. But next week at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers, after the Steelers, who, by the way, are playing tonight, the Steelers are playing on Monday Night Football, and that normally means that a team on Monday Night Football follows up by an early kickoff on Sunday. I'm telling you right now, the Falcons are the play. If you're thinking about putting some hay down, we'll get the point spread up in a second. But the Steelers at home, a team that is not who the Pittsburgh Steelers have been in the past, Falcons have got to find a way to win that game. It was such a brutal way to lose that game. Ball got deflected. You could tell if it doesn't get deflected, it's going right into Patterson's hands, and he's going to probably muscle his way into the end zone. There was going to be a collision there, but I think he falls forward for a touchdown, worst case scenario. They lose by 6. That would have been the touchdown, assuming they get the extra point. They would have won the game. Instead, gets deflected, gets intercepted, the old-fashioned tip drill, and the Falcons lose. But at the same time, the Buccaneers lose. But if you look at the Falcons' schedule coming up, Steelers at home is very winnable. The Saints look like an absolute wreck right now. I don't know why Andy Dalton is still their quarterback. I can't even figure that out. And then they have the Cardinals at home, which looked daunting at the beginning of the year, but the Cardinals are not a very good football team. And it's an early kickoff in Atlanta, so they're going to have that advantage with Arizona being a West Coast team. It's all going to line up. That final game in January 8th, at home in Atlanta against Tampa Bay, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And I expect that game is going to be for the division championship and a punching their ticket into the playoffs, and they've got a chance. Now, the question that I've got, when you look at the statistics from yesterday and you just, if you watch the game, Arthur Smith keeps saying Mariota is not in danger of losing his job. My word, he's 15 of 25 for 174 yards. I get that he had the 49 yards on the ground, and maybe that's what he really is quantifying it to, the fact that when it's all said and done, he was worth 225 yards. And I get that, but 56% pass completion for a quarterback doesn't get it done. And Washington's got a good defense, but we're not talking about the 85 Bears out there. We're talking about Mariota. He throws 25 passes. You're expecting him to complete 18, 19 of them, especially in today's NFL. They got a little better production out of the running game. Algier and Patterson both went for 52. And when you combine Mariota, it's 167 yards total. But I'm telling you, what you've seen out of Mariota, that is his absolute ceiling. There's a reason why he didn't make it in Nashville. And it begs the question, will they put Ritter in at some point? Or are they truly just going to use this as a quote-unquote red shirt year because maybe they're viewing it as probably not going to win it all. Can't probably get, even if you get in the playoffs, the Falcons probably are not likely to make a ridiculous run. A Cinderella storybook run is what it would be. And maybe he's that far behind. We don't know. We're not in these practices with them and seeing behind the scenes and sitting in their team meetings. But if Ritter is this far behind where 15 to 25 is considered getting it done, then did the Falcons actually draft their quarterback of the future, or are they going to be back in the mix this season? You've got the same questions in a couple of other scenarios. You look at the Jets. They did an incredible job yesterday. Mike White, who's kind of bounced around the league, was drafted by the Cowboys several years ago. He's been with the Jets since 2019. And he had a phenomenal game. Now, granted, he was playing a Bears team that did not have Justin Fields, and the Bears defense has been very porous, especially after the trades they've made. Chicago's in a full-blown rebuild mode, and we get that. But Mike White is the Jets quarterback until injury or something else happens, meaning off season. Mike White is not going to be sitting down anytime soon. And he did get a layup getting to play the Bears at home. But then again, they put 31 points on the board. And if you saw the game, the weather was horrendous. Horrendous. They go to the Vikings this week, and you think, oh, look out. But the Vikings defense has been terrible. The biggest question in this game to me, it's not whether or not the Jets are going to be able to score, is can the Jets defense slow them down enough to get the W on the road? I would not be shocked to see the Jets pull off the upset in Minnesota. We'll start looking at the lines here in the next hour, but you look at the next few games for the Jets. They go to the Vikings, then they go to the Bills, and that's the difficult one, especially considering the fact that they won that first matchup. The Bills are going to be looking for revenge. So you got the Vikings and the Bills back-to-back. You'd like to split here, and I think you have a better chance of beating the Vikings than you do the Bills. Same token, the Vikings, 11 days off in between games? So that's always a tough task. But then they get the Lions at home. They get the Jaguars at home. Those ought to be a couple of W's. That puts the New York Jets with 9 wins, bare minimum. And so they're bookended with 2 road games with Minnesota and Buffalo. And then they're at home for Detroit and Jacksonville, 2 both must wins. And then they're bookended again on the road at Seattle and at the Dolphins. So those are going to be 2 tough games. Depending on whether the Dolphins are playing such good football, they might be resting their players. We'll see. Tua Tagovailoa has really gone out and changed the narrative on his career. It hasn't hurt the fact that he's got Tyreek Hill now, right? But that offense is absolutely rolling. They took care of the Texans 30-15. College football real quick. The Auburn Tigers, they are in their head coaching search, and there's a couple of names that have been thrown out there. Hugh Freeze being the main one that everyone believes is going to be the name that they're going to go after. Of course, Hugh Freeze has had such a checkered past. You wonder if Auburn fans will be happy with that. And then the other name that people have started talking about, mainly because he's in front of the camera every Saturday and he's been so dominant, and he won big games against Nick Saban, and that's one Urban Meyer. But if you hire Hugh Freeze or you hire Urban Meyer, you're hiring a lot of baggage. And the athletic director is going to have to wear that. The guy comes in and keeps his nose fairly clean and wins, everything will be okay. But if you make that swing and miss, not so much. So I'm kind of expecting to see them go another route, but I don't understand why Cadillac Williams is not getting a chance. He's done a pretty good job this year. I get everyone believes that he's just a towel waver and that he's not necessarily winning because of his coaching abilities. I think he's just a rah guy. But the worst, if you hire Cadillac Williams as the head coach, he's an alumni, so the fans won't hate it. And then the other thing is, you wouldn't have to hire him to a big time deal, and it would be a fairly cheap buyout. And what you could probably do at that point is go in, you give him next year, and if it's an absolute disaster, you could work the contract where if it's an absolute disaster, this gives you another year to see who else is out there on the market. You might get a coach that gets canned from the NFL or college. It's ready to come back. There's a lot of names out there. And I know a lot of people have thrown the Deion Sanders name around. And I get why folks might think that might be a good hire. But if you're going to go that route and give a guy who doesn't have any Power 5 college football experience and doing it off of name recognition, what is wrong with Cadillac Williams? All right, we're going to take a really quick break. We come back on the other side. Tones is going to be joining us. Tampa Tones. We're going to talk some NFC South, and then of course Monday Night Football. And we're going to talk some point spreads. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country, WQEE, and Armchair Quarterback Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
This is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. College football rankings come out tomorrow night, but the AP Top 25 is in, and the Georgia Bulldogs are still #1 in the land. They're followed by Michigan, TCU, and USC in the top 4. Ohio State with the #5 slot. Alabama and Tennessee follow them up, with Penn State, Washington, and Clemson in the top 10. LSU falls to #11 after getting handled by the Texas A&M Aggies. Florida State jumps up to #14 after their thrilling win against arch rival, the Florida Gators. The South Carolina Gamecocks, they jump into the top 25 at #20 after shocking Clemson on the road. The National Football League tonight, Monday Night Football. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 3-7, they travel to the Indianapolis Colts, 4-6-1. The line is Indianapolis favored by 2, over under 39.5. 7:00 Eastern on NBA TV. The Atlanta Hawks are at the Philadelphia 76ers. Philly favored by a point. Hornets are at the Celtics at 7:30. Other games of interest, you got the Cavs at the Raptors, Bulls at the Jazz. The Phoenix Suns are at the Sacramento Kings. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Braves Country. Hope y'all are having a good Monday, excuse me. And joining us now is Mr. Tampa Tones. Tones, how the hell are you, sir?
Good, my friend. Well, been better. Just got back from Cleveland. I sat through the rain and cold to get that L. But anyways, I'm here on a Monday with Braves Country, so that's always a good thing on WQEE. Excited to talk some sports with you, brother. And that was great intro music, I must add.
So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The NFC South, and then I do want to talk some lines, especially the ones tonight. The NFC South is getting as sticky as it can get, even though no one in the entire division is really playing what you would consider playoff type football, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's why they're set up in divisions to try to keep more folks engaged, and the NFL does this regionally. I think they do it better than anyone as far as actually having regional divisions.
Mm-hmm.
The Buccaneers, if folks haven't paid attention to this, they have a half game lead on the Falcons. They're 5-6. Entire division is below 500, which is ridiculous going into week 13, but it's where we are. Atlanta's 5-7. And then the Panthers and the Saints hot on everyone's track at 4-8. You can't make this up. It is interesting if you look at it that of all the teams, it's the Carolina Panthers who are 3-1 in the division. And sometimes that tiebreaker comes into play. So we'll see what happens there, but they're 3-1, and that's where the Falcons are hurting. They are 1-3 in the division. So when I look at this and the fact that they lost to the Bucs the first game, close game, they realistically had a chance to win. The Falcons are going to have to play really good football down the stretch. I talked about it last hour, Steelers and Saints. And then they do go to the Ravens. That's a tough game. You also have to chalk that as a loss if you're counting these. Steelers, Saints, and Cardinals before they host the final game against the Bucs in Atlanta, last game of the season. With all that being said, I look at this Sunday as a must-win for the Falcons, and I kind of look at the Saints game as a must-win of the Falcons. You don't want to lose the Saints, and that would get you to 500. And then between the Ravens and the Cardinals, you need one of those wins. If you can do that, when you look at the Bucs schedule, they need to be even Steven with the Bucs going into the final week of the season. Because the way it's looking now, the Bucs would probably have the better divisional record. Now, the Bucs, conversely, they get the Saints at home. They play one more game than the Falcons, obviously, because the Falcons have not hit that bye yet. But Get the Falcons, or excuse me, the Saints at home, the 49ers on the road. That's a tough one. The Bengals at home. That's a tough one. At Arizona, which is always much more difficult than when Arizona plays on the road, and home against the Panthers. And then they're at the Falcons. And so I'm looking at this. It's crazy, but I think the Falcons are going to have to go 3-1 before they get to that Bucs game, and hoping that the Bucs go, I guess, 3-2 or worse, which is a distinct possibility, but the Falcons cannot go through this and go 1-3, 2-2, and think that final game is going to mean something.
Yeah, and the good news for whoever comes out of the NFC South, whether it might be Atlanta, Tampa, at this point, heck, you can't even count Carolina or New Orleans out of it. Like you said, hot on their tracks at 4 wins. 2 of the past 3 winners of divisions who finish under 500 have won at least one playoff game. That was the Carolina Panthers in 2015. They finished 7-8-1. They got a win over Arizona. And then Seattle finished 7-9 the year Marshawn Lynch with beast mode over the Saints. The team to lose was Washington in 2020, although they played Tampa down to the wire. So you just get to the dance and you see what happens. Now, that being said, the way Tampa's playing, the way Atlanta's roster is constructed, I don't see these foes being too much of a threat at this point in time. But if the Falcons uptick things a little bit or Tampa gets hot a little bit, never say never. And like I said, Carolina, you can't count out yet at this point in time. They beat Tampa earlier this year. And the Saints, although they look terrible right now, they're only 1.5 games back of the division. So it's up for grabs. It's anyone's division. Huge games for Atlanta this week. And then these are must wins for both the Saints and Bucs. If the Saints lose, to me, write them off. And if the Bucs lose, where there's smoke, there's fire. And let's just say that smoke is clouding in the attic already.
You know, when I look at this too, and I look at the Saints, what does Jameis Winston have to do to get on the field? Because Andy Dalton is not it. 18-29, 204, QBR rating of 52 yesterday. I guess the head coach just likes him better for whatever reason, but I haven't seen where he does anything to back that up.
Me neither.
I mean, are they intentionally tanking? Like that? That's the only thing I can think of. I'm not saying that Jameis Winston, by any stretch of the imagination, is a top 5 quarterback of the NFL, but I do believe he would have scored a point yesterday. And I think he probably would give you a chance. They're 4-8. If he was playing, I think they could be right there. It only would take one more win at this point to be right there on the heels of first place.
And why wouldn't you start Jameis Monday night heading into an emotional matchup against his former team, Tampa, with the season on the line? Andy Dalton's had a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type season, and you just can't afford that when you're the Saints and their margin for error is so slim. Jameis Winston, last year, he started off playing really good football. This year, he only had a couple games under his belt, and he seemed a little banged up in at least 1 or 2 of those games. So you kind of should have scraped those games from the start to begin with if you're head coach Dennis Allen. And to me, he's playing with fire starting Andy Dalton this long. Jameis gives him the better chance to win at this point in the season, in my opinion. Management sure knows that. And to me, Dennis Allen has to be on the hot seat. And really, Art Smith is the best coach right now in the NFC South. I mean, with the Falcons roster, the way he's constructed these wins, you look at the Bucs talented roster and the Saints talented roster, Todd Bowles and Dennis Allen should be embarrassed because the division's there for the taking this year. Neither team has stepped up to this point. And then you give Steve Wilkes a pass because he's interim, although he's coaching pretty dang good football for Carolina.
Yeah, he is. The whole thing with the Andy Dalton thing is a head scratcher because he has been pretty much and also ran a bare minimum backup quarterback for the last 3 or 4 years. And then all of a sudden, this is I would rather see Taysom Hill
Mm-hmm.
on the offense, because at least it gives you an element of, man, we got to prepare for this week, right?
Correct.
The strange thing about this, I don't know how it's possible, but the Saints tend to have the Buccaneers number. So going into this game, you're going to assume, if you're out there on the betting lines, you go, oh man, you got to take the Bucs at home on a Monday night. I would be leery of that. I would be very leery of it. Other games that went down yesterday, Browns win the game in overtime against the Bucs, and Falcons lose their game on just a ridiculous tipped pass that, if not, I think that pass is heading right into the arms of CPAT, and CPAT's going to roll into the end zone. And I'm not thinking that Heineke's going to be able to march them down the field. So that could have been the difference right there in the entire Atlanta Falcons season, but we'll see going forward.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, you get a couple of other outcomes. The Bengals-Titans game was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely, positively ridiculous. I can't even begin to go into that, because you're looking at that game and it's like, what in the world? When do they ever call the
I got into too much of a habit the other.
Sorry, the app's messing up. When in the world do they ever call that penalty where you can't touch the center on a field goal? And you're going to do that at the end of the game? At the end of the game. No way, no how. So
No.
I'm really down on the referees on that. And with that being said, you move on from that. You got a couple of other games of interest. Dolphins roll to nobody's shock. The Rams are just terrible at this point.
Awful. Perkins didn't give him a spark at all.
I mean, what made them think they would?
I mean, they said they liked that he was a dual threat, but with that offense, that ain't going to do much. And I mean, he's their third string quarterback at the end of the day, so I'm not too sure what they were thinking.
That's the problem. He's not a dual threat, because a dual threat implies that you can pass the ball. And what that tells me is that the Los Angeles Rams football staff does not watch ACC football, because he was never a threat at Virginia.
Mm-hmm. You are correct.
Virginia's offense was horrible. He was the Emory Jones of the ACC. They put him in there. I could not get to the window fast enough on the under in that game on the team total for the Rams. Their over under was 13.5. And I just felt like there was just no way. And surely enough, they did not get there. They 26-10, and they almost didn't even get the 10. That touchdown came late in the game. It's kind of a garbage touchdown, and they had to get it a big fourth down to be able to get that. But the point is, the Rams are done. The Eagles got a big win last night, but they're showing some chinks in their armor as far as their defense goes. Beginning of the season, I thought they had a really good defense, and it's not looking that way right now.
Not at all. You can't let up that, you just can't do it. You can't let up that type of magnitude of a touchdown and that type of importance. And, Eagles are one of those teams where they're hemming and hawing, but they're looking good right now. They just need some defenders back from being injured, and we'll see what happens. But the Packers are done. They're done.
Yeah, the Packers looks like they're going to be missing Aaron Rodgers with the rib injury. They haven't come out with the full, actual timeline, but it's not looking good. And I kind of figure they're going to shut him down. This is week 12. They've got 5 games left. What is the point of getting him beat all to hell? What they can do is they can find out what they have in Jordan Love, and come the offseason, they might trade Aaron Rodgers. There's been a lot of those rumors, and why not?
Yeah, look at how it's benefited Seattle this year. I mean, they traded Russell Wilson, who started like Aaron Rodgers. He started getting banged up. All of a sudden, Seattle trades him. Everyone's chewing out Seattle. Next thing you know, Seattle gets 4 picks, 5 picks, 2 of them first rounders, 2 of them second rounders, a plethora of players, including Noah Fant. So it's turned out incredible for them so far, and the Packers might be best to follow suit.
There's always someone out there that thinks that they can get an old quarterback one more good year out of them. And the Colts, they're as big as suckers as anyone out there. So it'll be round number 5 with that, them trying to replace Andrew Luck with someone with one foot in the grave. I don't think that he's necessarily lost it per se, but he's definitely slowing down. And I don't, but once again, the only thing you can do if you send Aaron Rodgers back out there at this point is hurt your draft pick and also hurt his stock. You can go into the offseason and tell someone that you're trading them, hey, come on now. He was hurt. This is Aaron Rodgers. He's 1 year removed away from an MVP.
Back-to-back MVP.
I mean, can you imagine the Jets if they can put together an offense? The Jets come to mind. The Colts come to mind. Possibly Tennessee. They're going to be out from under the Ryan Tannehill, but probably not. Heck, who knows? The Buccaneers could be in the race if they can't figure out if Tom Brady calls it quits. I think he comes back, but the Falcons could be in there because you don't want to do the Mariota thing again. And if Ritter's not it, if they don't believe in Ritter, the Falcons could be in the mix, and they definitely have the capital to bring him in. And you would have a pretty good core for Aaron Rodgers to be able to shine, because you've got some pretty good receivers. And then, of course, maybe Aaron Rodgers can figure out how to use Kyle Pitts.
What a bust he's been for fantasy owners. And it's crazy because you do have, potential there with CPAT, with that running game. Tyler Algier has been nice as well. So if Atlanta gets a veteran quarterback, that'd be great for them. I also don't think Carolina is too far off besides a head coach and a QB combo. Their defense is young and upcoming. They got DJ Moore out there. Their running backs, although they don't have names, they've been a little productive since CMC's departure. So there's a lot of these teams that to me are a veteran quarterback away from competing. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who will draw interest out there. And I think, like you say, he still has some left in the tank. It needs to be the right scenario for him. It needs to be the right situation for him to succeed. Unlike Russell Wilson, whatever the heck's going on in Denver, I think Aaron Rodgers can have some success at a second stop where he might land. A lot of possibilities out there. I think Jets would be perfect. Like you said, that defense is ready to win now. So we'll see. All I know is Colts need something. Joe says Taylor needs to have a good game tonight in the chat. Yeah, that's the key to success for them tonight. But as for Rodgers, we'll see what happens.
2 other teams in the same part of the country. The Giants are a quarterback away, right? I also think they need to add at least 1, if not 2, pass catchers on offense. But if they can re-sign Barkley, they'd be set up. And then the other team, what about the Patriots? I mean, never underestimate Bill Belichick coming in with a 6th round pick in 2033 and grabbing Aaron Rodgers out from under someone.
Yeah, and he drafted Bailey Zapp this year, so it means that he likes Mac Jones, but he's not in love with Mac Jones, because he wouldn't be drafting a rookie quarterback at all if you thought Mac Jones and Brian Hoyer were enough on the depth chart. So
you could get some draft capital for Mac Jones. It wouldn't be, top of the line, but there are some teams that would take a chance on him.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. If you get a Rodgers, you could spew Jones to one of those other quarterback needing teams, kind of like when the Colts got Ryan, they traded once. So it's definitely possible and an opportunity out there.
If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you go out and grab him, if nothing else, as a backup and bring him home to Jacksonville. So it's a lot of options out there. We got to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into Colts Steelers. You're listening to Braves Country here on WQEE.
Are you okay, pal?
I had a rough day on the job.
Are you going home now?
I was about to.
Well then, you just fulfilled the first rule of law enforcement. Make sure when your shift is over, you go home alive.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Make contact. A collective psychosis is sweeping the nation. We're in the thick of the haze craze, and Elysian is introducing an altered state of IPA. Contact Haze is a tangled chemistry of mild haze, low bitterness, and an explosion of hop aroma. This hazy IPA bursts with notes of bright raspberry, currant, citrus, guava, and passion fruit. Available in 6-pack cans in stores. Make contact.
If we actually enjoyed our New Year's resolutions, we'd all have 6-packs, money in our saving accounts, and we'd know how to play the piano. I have to tell you about the one resolution I actually enjoy. It's Built Bar. It's delicious. Oh yeah, it's healthy too. They're low-cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for the keto diet. Lose or maintain weight while indulging. Visit BuiltBar.com.
Braves Country, weekdays 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99, WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM The Key, home of Braves Country, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com @Braves Country.
Have you ever protested anything?
Sure, every time I get thrown out of the pub.
Welcome back here to Braves Country. As Tones Areola and I, Mac McGee, are taking you all the way to the top of the hour. Here weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. And let's go ahead and dive into tonight's game, Monday Night Football. Kind of a dud. 3-7 Steelers, 4-6 Colts. But there's always an opportunity to lay some bones on something, right? So you got the Colts -2.5, which I kind of like. And then you've also got the over-under at 39.5. I think if I'm going anywhere, I would probably hit the over-under because I really feel like this is going to be a low-scoring ball game. What say you?
Yeah, you would really think it's a low-scoring game. Kenny Pickett has 3 touchdowns, 8 interceptions on the year, kind of finding his groove, and he's yet to face one of those no such things as easy defenses in the NFL, but they're tougher defenses in the NFL. And it's cupcake, so there's no cupcakes yet for Kenny Pickett tonight. He continues his hard schedule against the Colts. I like the Colts and the under in this one as well. Matt Ryan shows that he can move the ball, get some field goals, and Jonathan Taylor could run out the clock for this Colts team as well offensively. So I like the under as well if you're going to go one of two ways, as Taylor should stretch out the clock. Steelers have been using Najee Harris a lot more the past couple of weeks as he's gotten north of 20 touches per week, and that's helped out his fantasy stock be on the rise a little bit. So between Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor, 2 really good running backs in this league, 2 pretty stout defenses as well. Steelers defense getting healthier with the likes of Minkah Fitzpatrick returning and whatnot. I like the under, and at the same token, I like the Colts laying the 2.5. I think they've been playing better football of late, believe it or not, with Jeff Saturday around town instead of Frank Reich.
Yeah, I'm not so convinced about them winning the game, but I definitely think I like the under. What I'm more likely to do is to tease the game, meaning the Colts might win, but that 2.5 almost seems like that they're trying to trick you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm more likely to do is to tease the game, meaning you get 6 points on both sides, putting the over-under, take the under at 45.5, and take the Steelers plus 8.5, which means that the Colts would have to win by almost 10 points.
Mm.
And I really think that that's probably the play I'm going to make. I know a lot of bettors tell you to stay away from teasers and whatnot, but I've done really well with them this year. And I've always liked the 2-team teaser. You can get 6. Sometimes you get 6.5. Some folks will go to 7, 8. The problem is the higher you go, the lower your payback is. So it comes down to, is it worth it? But one of the better ones for me to do is, depending on your book, you can do like a 7-point teaser and with 2 teams, and you're talking about a minus 140. So like if you lay $28, you win 20, that kind of thing. So that's everyone's preference is what that really comes down to. But any way you look at it, I think that's where I'm going tonight. Looking at next week, some early lines are at the Falcons are a 1.5 point favorite at home against the Steelers, and the Steelers are going to be coming off of Monday Night Football. And I love grabbing teams, especially lesser teams, off of Monday Night Football, traveling on an early kickoff on Sunday. So I'm really liking that Falcons line right now, 1.5.
They should cover that one. The way they're playing at home this year, they're playing good football at home this year, especially. So Steelers on a short week, younger quarterback. Now, where Pittsburgh could win the game, as you alluded to earlier, McGee, Mariota's not been playing the best at quarterback. Steelers defense getting a little healthier. So Mariota could have a hard day, but at the end of the day, if they play the football, they know they can. Art Smith keeps the ball on the ground. I think they bleed enough clock and win that one by a chip shot as well. So I'm probably staying away from that game, but if I were to put some dough on it, I'd probably lean the Falcons.
And the over-under is 42. So once again, that's another good tease that you could do. You could take the under, which would push the over under to 48. So you take the under. If you took the Falcons, you're talking about, what is that? 4.5 points you'd be getting.
Yeah, not bad with the tease. So
I really like that one. Other games of note, point spread that we're looking at here. By the way, if you do want to call in and chime in, the number to call is 678-960-9700. That's 678-960-9700 as we're opening up the phone lines, 9700. Green Bay, 2.5 point favorite against Chicago. Reason why I'm steering clear of this is that I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. If I knew that it was going to be Justin Fields, I would take the Bears at home.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if it ends up being Simeon, or even worse, Nathan Peterman, and against Jordan Love, I kind of like the Packers on that game.
Absolutely. It just really matters who's starting for the Bears. I like Jordan Love over both the backups as well. So, if Fields is starting, I like the Bears. If not, I like the Packers. Pretty simple in that one.
Lions are at home against the Jaguars. 51.5 is the over under. I think that might be a little high, especially considering the fact that ETN probably won't be playing, but Lions are a 1 point favorite. Browns, Texans. This is one that realistically no one should care about, but everybody's going to have their eye on it because Deshaun Watson getting reinstated in the NFL. He should be ready to roll Sunday, traveling to the Texans. 47 is the over under. I think this is going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I think that one should go over as well. The thing is, it depends how will Watson look. He pretty much hasn't played in about 2 years now, but if Kevin Stefanski's smart, he gets the ground going against that vulnerable ground game, and the Browns might run their way to 42 points themselves. So you might not need much from Houston. When you got Chubb going like he has been, your offense could do a lot of good things with play action, opening up the pass game and whatnot. So I like the Browns and the over in that one.
Titans, Eagles, 44.5 is the over. Eagles are a 5.5 point favorite. If I was going to take the Titans, which is the only line I would go with, there's no way I'm giving up 5.5 with that Eagle defense. I think I'm going to wait till later in the week to see if that line might go up to 6.5. Because I think there's a really good possibility it does. Because all the East Coast money is going to come in on it. They're going to expect the Eagles to roll. But once again, this is a Sunday night game. And though they're at home, an early kickoff on Sunday afternoon, and the Titans, one thing that they will do and can do is run the ball, and the Eagles cannot stop the run. Conversely, the Titans pass defense is suspect. So that over under seems a little low to me at 44.5.
Yeah, it really does seem a little low, especially with the Eagles banged up and injuries they got going on right now. So I like the over in that one for sure. We'll see where the points land right now. I'd probably take the Titans with the points as well at 5.5, although it could continue to creep up. So hold out on that. But I like the over in the Titans if I had to take two right now. I'd probably stay away from the spread in totality, but I do like the over. And if I had to pick, I'd go Tennessee. They're playing some good football right now. Almost beat Cincy. Should have beat Cincy yesterday.
Seahawks, Rams, -5 is Seattle. I mean, this game is just gross. Nobody wants to watch this, but a chance to make some money. A, the Rams are terrible. B, the over-under is 40.5, and it seems way too high to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although the Rams offense is terrible and their defense has been a step back this year, they still have some elite defenders out there and they'll be at home. So when you got guys like Donald and Ramsey, Seattle going to town, I do like the under in that one. That's kind of a big game for Seattle.
And it's a divisional game, and usually divisional games are lower scoring. Typically.
And all of a sudden, that game means a lot more for Seattle than it did a couple weeks ago. They look like they had an easier.
What were they doing there? Losing at home to the freaking Raiders?
And in that fashion, too, where Josh Jacobs gets that sort of touchdown, what was it, 90, 80 plus yards to walk it off? I bet you Doug was happy, but man, you got to get those games. If you're a playoff team, you got to get those type of games at home. And Seattle just did not do that. And they've lost back-to-back tough ones now. So they need this one. If you lose 3 in a row and 2 of them are to the Raiders and Rams back-to-back when you're fighting for the playoffs, you could almost write yourself off. So big game for Seattle.
Yeah, but I believe it was 86 yards was the walk-off. Other games, I'll tell you what's a fun one. I'm looking forward to this one. Niners hosting the Dolphins. That's just a fun game. 46.5 is the over-under, which sounds about right. And the Niners are 3.5 point favorite. You know, this game, I know I'll end up hitting it because it's the late window and you're either chasing what you lost or you're trying to roll what you won. But that line looks about right, and I would be very hesitant to take it straight up. I'd probably be more likely to tease this as well.
One thing I really like about this game, Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Dolphins, used to be offensive coach for the 49ers. So cool there that him and Shanahan, good friends, are going to be facing off against each other. I like, if I had to choose right now, even though it is East Coast to West Coast, I think that it's a higher scoring game than projected right now at 46.5. I don't think we see sluggishness from the Dolphins offense as much as expected. And I know 49ers defense is good, but Miami's defense or offense has been really nice this year. And 49ers offense ain't half bad as well. So I'd probably go the over in that one right now at 46.5. The spread too early for me to jump in on that at 3.5.
Yeah. What's funny is, okay, so Chiefs Bengals, that is the game of the week, right? The national game of the week is one most people are getting, the 425 kickoff. But I really think the game that I care more about that I want to watch is this Dolphins 49ers game. There's so many storylines in this game. And these are two teams that are heading towards the playoffs. And I get why Chiefs Bengals is important and why a lot of people are going to want to watch that. But I will be fascinated to see what Tua and that wide receiving core could do against that 49er defense. And conversely, can they slow down the run game of the 49ers? And what can Jimmy G do? That should be a really, really fun one. Chargers, Raiders.
This
50.5 is the over. There should be fireworks in this show. I don't not realistically care who wins, but the Chargers did save their season yesterday with going for that 2-point. They saved their season. So they still have a reason to play, and the Raiders are just going to beat the Chargers because of the rivalry. But I like that over at the 50.5. Chargers, by the way, 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, and how it ended last year between these two, right? Some shenanigans that boxed the Raiders out of the playoffs, got the Chargers into the playoffs. So, the Raiders are going to be a little fired up in this one. To me, Brandon Staley is one of those guys whose job might be on the hot seat a little bit. Chargers made a lot of offseason moves. So this game is really important to them. Just because to me, it means more as of now. Raiders, I mean, come on, they'd have to win out pretty much to even consider playoffs. I just don't see that happening. They are undefeated since Derek Carr's crying scene. But given the importance of this game, I would take the Chargers right now, laying the points. What I would probably do if it's not too many points, I'd bump it down to taking the Chargers -1. I would bump it to. You don't win as much money there, but there, if you win straight up, you're good to go. I doubt this game ends in a tie. So I'd bump the Chargers to -1, and I would take the over. I think the Raiders and Chargers are going to put up points at a premium in this one. Chargers offense getting healthier. Raiders offense looking better by the week as they're kind of redirecting things more so behind Josh Jacobs before he hits free agency. They're going to run him into the ground. I like the over, and I would bump the Chargers from the 2.5 to 1, but still time for that spread to even out as the week goes.
Now, the question that I have here, I'm pulling it up right here. It looks like they have to make that decision prior to. So I guess Sunday night game will be Colts at Cowboys.
Yeah, they waited too long on that one. And Cowboys are the most televised or the most viewed team this year. So, and then the Jeff Saturday thing, maybe they figure more.
What happens? What happens if the Colts lose tonight? That game becomes even more irrelevant, right?
Hey, like Ursay said, all chips on Jeff Saturday. NBC Sunday Night Football said all chips in on the Colts tonight against the Steelers. So as you said, if they lose tonight,
it's a love affair for Jeff Saturday because he's an ex-broadcaster, and but man, that could be an old-fashioned boat race.
It could be, but one thing I will say, 9.5 points is a lot of points in the NFL. If it stays at that, Colts, the way they run the football, they don't really get blown out too much with Matt Ryan at quarterback so far this season. They've lost some heartbreakers and some close ones. So if the Colts win tonight and they beat Pittsburgh, as I expect them to do, I think that I would take Colts plus 9.5 Sunday night at Dallas, 820. I just think they play physical football. Their defense is there. And if Taylor gets going tonight, he's a key to their success. That's a lot of points, even though Dallas has looked incredible.
Let's not get him going too much because I need him to not go bananas because of fantasy football reasons. I need him and Michael Pittman to have modest games, right?
You're telling the guy who played Josh Jacobs in a couple leagues yesterday.
Well, you're talking to a guy who had ETN out there.
Oh, yeah.
Guy stubbed his toe. I saw he was on Twitter complaining about his brother not getting the ball enough in the Florida State Florida game. His younger brother's a really good running back for the Gators. And I replied with you, well, considering they might be worried about his usage. if you sneeze on ETN, like there, it's over. I have no rhyme or reason for saying this. but give me the Saints plus 3.5 because it seems like they own that rivalry. And even if the Bucks win, I feel like it's going to be a nail biter, and 3.5 is a lot of points to give up on even though it's at home, in a rivalry game.
And the Bucks are the type of team right now who's their coaching incompetence is to the point where they could be up by that game by 8 to 10 points and just, let the Saints in a backdoor cover easily, as you just alluded to. 3.5 is a lot for the Bucks to be given right now, although Andy Dalton hasn't looked great. They have owned the Bucks in that rivalry. Just because they're my team, I'm saying I would lay the 3.5 right now, but if you're a true betting man out there with a coin in your pocket, you're probably taking the 3.5 points. Bucks have just looked too up and down this year so far to trust him, given that. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing drops to 2.5 or 3 points by the time kickoff hits.
All right, let's take our last break. When we come back, we are going to hit the college football conference championships, talk those spreads. We will be back in a flash. You are listening to Braves Country on WQEE The Key and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
Hey, check it out. A snow cone machine.
A snow cone machine?
You're saying it wrong. It's a snow cone machine.
Wendy's only makes one kind of breakfast, your new favorite one. How do we do it? With fresh cracked eggs, oven-baked bacon, and flaky croissants. You know, the things your old breakfast wasn't doing. So toss that old news and its soggy eggs somewhere useful. And get to Wendy's. A sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, bacon, egg, and Swiss croissant, and honey butter chicken biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Limited time only. Single item at regular price. Price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's.
Hey, sports fans, the Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
Choose a yogurt that's right for you. With 2 grams of sugar per 5.3 ounce serving, Too Good Greek yogurt is too good to be true. So Delicious dairy-free yogurt and Silk yogurt alternatives are delicious plant-based swaps you can enjoy by the spoon or add to recipes. Oikos 000 yogurt and Light and Fit yogurt are tasty, non-fat yogurt options. So many flavors, varieties, and possibilities. Elevate any recipe and your everyday with yogurt.
You're listening to WQEE in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m.
Can you keep a secret? Of course I can. I lost all our money today betting on sports. Damn. I know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Can I tell you a secret? Sure. Yeah. I lied. I can't keep secrets. Wait, what?
Armchair.
Welcome back. Matt McGee alongside Tones as we are taking you to the top of the hour. And we're here weekdays 3 to 5. This is our second show. We started on Black Friday if you missed that show. You can also simulcast if you missed the show. You can also go back and watch it on YouTube. And that's youtube.com/@Braves Country. And we do these, and we also do some baseball and football broadcasts. I bring you Atlanta Braves baseball throughout the season, and then doing some football. We got some football lined up. Got some games coming up, and we'll talk about that more later in the week. Got to get some things ironed out, but suffice to say, we've got some interesting matchups coming your way. Let's go ahead and get back into the college football, the early lines. I always think it's important that if you are out there looking at who's going to win, who's not going to win, and the lines. And if you're thinking about putting some money on these games, always good to look at the early lines because you might see something you really like. And I know a lot of fans don't like to do that. A lot of fans like to wait because, first of all, most of us do this recreationally. We don't do it professionally. So we're waiting. And then also there's always the concern, and I get it. There's always the concern of an injury happening in practice, or you're waiting to find out what the injury report is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the sharps are always usually hitting these lines early in the week, unless they feel like something's going to trend, and then you'll see them hammer them on the weekends.
And the worst outcome, real quick too, is if you do hit him at the beginning of the week and then you change your mind or big injury happens. If you cash out, you're only losing like $1 or $2, so it ain't the end of the world at all.
If you can cash out, there are some sites that you cannot cash out, so it really depends. But the other thing is you can always just go back and bet against yourself if worst case scenario happens. So like some of these games that I've talked about that I really like that I'll probably hit early in the week, if something terrible were to happen before kickoff, I would just go back and take the other team.
True.
So even it out. Conference championship Saturday is going to start off on Friday night, and it's a good one. It's a rematch. It's USC's only loss. They're number 14, Utah, who's 9-3 on the year. If things would have went their way, Utah could be in this.
Mm-hmm.
Utah had a couple of games that probably should have won. The Florida game mainly. I feel like they choked that one away at the end. And they had a couple other games where they were right into the end. So Utah, Southern Cal, the line is Southern Cal -3. The game's being played in Las Vegas. And trying to find the over under. I don't see it showing right here, but let me expand this a little bit. It'll probably pop up. But right now we're looking at, okay, it's 67. So over under is 67. And I think that's a really high over, even though I get it. Southern Cal can put some points up, but that Utah defense is usually pretty stout, and they play a really slow it down game. So for it to hit 67, everything's going to have to go right. I think I might jump on that under.
Yeah, I'd go under, and I'd also do USC straight up or bump it to -1. Again, you wouldn't win that great. The best of money as you would with the spread, but I think USC needs this one for, I think Lincoln Riley, he's experienced in big games. Caleb Williams, he's right there for the Heisman. This game just means a little bit more than it does to Utah for them. So I like the Trojans.
All right, now for the game that all of Braves country will have their eyes on. Georgia Bulldogs are a 17.5-point favorite. What is essentially a home game in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And they are going to be 17.5-point favorites. Now, it started at 16. Then went to 16.5 this morning. Now it's at 17.5 on Caesar's book. Against LSU Tigers, the over-under is 50.5. For once, I think I'm steering clear of the SEC championship game. Georgia's going to win, but I don't have any idea how they're going to treat the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And if they start worrying about injuries and they have a comfortable lead, I could see LSU at the backdoor cover. If this game was taking place 3 weeks ago, I'm hammering Georgia -17. I'd give up 20.
Mm-hmm.
LSU doesn't belong on the field with Georgia. But LSU could find a way to fight their way, and we're talking about 17.5 points.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that over-under is pretty low. SEC championship game tends to be pretty high scoring.
Yeah, that's a lot of points, 17.5. As you said, I think Georgia wins this game by 10-14 easily, sure. But 17.5 in a game where Georgia's pretty much clinched the playoffs already too, keep in mind, there's no scenario where Georgia ends up on the outside of the top 4. So Georgia knows that. This is kind of a, hey, let's keep the momentum going this game, but if we could preserve some guys as the game goes on, we will. I think Georgia ends up winning by 10-14. With that being said, I'm not going to take LSU by any means. I'm not confident, and I think Georgia could still boat race them. But at the end of the day, Georgia knows what they have locked up, and I would take the over in this one as well. SEC championship games tend to be higher scoring, but yeah, staring clear of the spread, although I think Georgia does win handedly.
Next game, 4:00 Eastern as well. Really dumb decision to put this game on at 4:00. I mean, who in the South is watching this, unless you're a UCF or Tulane fan? Who is watching this over the SEC championship game? But UCF is a 3-point underdog. Tulane, the favorite, and the over-under is 56.5. I'm hammering the over on this all day long.
I'd go over as well. It was about 68.5 for USF against UCF, and that over came in by more than a dozen. I like the over in this one as Tulane's offense is better than USF's was, so more of a chance for that to hit. And give me UCF with the points here. Gus Malzahn staying there. Tulane's coach is on his way out to Georgia Tech. We all know how that is. Look at how Liberty performed after their head coach Freeze left their program and told them. So Tulane's coach is on the way out. I think UCF wins this one by coaching alone with Gus Malzahn in the AAC championship.
There's some breaking news. Hugh Freeze has taken the Auburn job.
He's officially taken that job, and he's on his way out. So that's why I think that UCF wins this one with Gus Malzahn. That one just became official a little bit ago. Disappointed Cadillac Williams didn't end up getting the job.
I think Tulane's coach is going to go to
Georgia Tech.
Okay, I missed that. Okay.
Tulane's coach is going to Georgia Tech, I believe. So, yep, on the day Cincinnati's coach goes to Wisconsin, Tulane's goes to Georgia Tech. A day later, Hugh Freeze is on his way to Auburn. So all these chairs are filling up quickly, and you heard rumblings of Dion to Colorado. But, yep, give me UCF with the points because Tulane's coach is...
You know, I was talking about this earlier in the show, this before the news broke, obviously, but he better win, and he better run a clean program, because when you hire Hugh Freeze to come in, and I get why they're doing it, they're desperate, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, with Saban, but there is no way that he can come in and lose or get into any kind of trouble because of his checkered past, and the athletic director keep his job. It's a little bit of a shock, but it really isn't, because dirty will play sometimes in college football, and sometimes they don't care how dirty a guy is. I mean, look at me chances Urban Meyer has been given. The other games, the Big Ten championships, basically meaningless. Michigan should win, but it's a 16-point spread. Regardless, however you look at it, Michigan's going to be in the playoffs no matter what. And is there anything that even intrigues you in this game? Because I'm steering clear of this game as well.
I'm steering clear of this one as well. We've seen kind of the same scenario last year when Michigan played Iowa in that game, except they boat raced them. This lines up like the Georgia LSU game. I think Michigan wins by how much? Probably 10-15, just right under that spread threshold. Not enough confidence to take that one, though.
There's also a report that it came out just about an hour ago, Associated Press. Deion Sanders has been offered the Colorado job, but he declined whether or not he was going to actually take it. He's also had interest from other schools, so that's interesting. Kansas State TCU, to me, is the best game of the day, and it's also got the most impact because Michigan and Georgia have already punched their tickets. Clemson and North Carolina are not going, and UCF and Tulane, obviously, are not going. So TCU's got to get a W. They're a 2.5-point favorite. Kansas State is a very tough customer. TCU beat them by 10 the first time, but it's very difficult to beat someone twice in college football in the same season. I'd be thinking about taking Kansas State in the points, so I'm pulling for TCU. I want to see new blood in this playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to take TCU because I'm pulling for TCU. Max Duggan's had a great year. I'm hoping for new blood. And to me, this is a year, if anyone's ever going to shock the world as a new blood to do it in the playoffs, it would be this year. Although Georgia's on fire, that's going to be a hard team to top. But usually you see at least 2 or 3 dominant schools this year. Besides Georgia, you have a lot of vulnerability in the playoffs. So you never know if a team like TCU sneaks in and they get the 3 seed somehow. You never know. Don't count out Max Duggan. I hope they win this one. That's why I'm going to lay the points 2.5. They have a lot to play for.
Well, we are coming up at the end of the Monday show here. Let me go ahead and take this off here. Give me a score for tonight's game.
Score for tonight's game, going 20-17 Indianapolis. Colts cover the 2.5 and the under comes in. I think this one is won by riding the wave of Jonathan Taylor. One prop bet I like for Jonathan Taylor is 2 touchdowns tonight. It's times 450, I believe. So if you put 10 on that, you could get $45 if Taylor finds the end zone twice. To me, Colts are going to have to use him for success. Look for Matt Ryan to make better decision-making tonight against a tougher Steelers D, hand that ball off more, and see if Jeff Saturday and Parks Frazier could continue their good momentum they've been able to build in Indianapolis from the previous 2 weeks.
My walk-off for the day is that, well, first of all, I think it's going to be I told you my take. I'm going to tease the Steelers in the points and the under in tonight's game. I think it's gonna be a low scoring, close fought game. And we will be back here tomorrow at from 3 to 5 p.m. Tomorrow, Joey's with us, and we're gonna be talking a lot of stuff. Some obviously reactions to the Monday Night Football and looking ahead to next week, but also I'm gonna dive into the bowl projections and where teams are, where schools are looking like they're going to head, because I think we can kind of start lining them up. And I've already started looking at all the projections, kind of making a compiled list of where it looks like everyone's going. And to me, there are some things that can happen this weekend. If you get some upsets, it can affect where your school is going to be playing come bowl time. And I hope more and more of these kids actually play in the bowls. But we'll get into more of that tomorrow. Great job, Tones. We'll see everyone tomorrow, 3 to 5. Stay tuned here on WQEE as they keep it rolling, and have a great Monday night football.
We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM, WQEE, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of a 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of a 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please. Can I get another cigarette, please?
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile